Welcome to our next installment on using Excel in the analysis of practice data. Hopefully by now you have your hands on a copy of Office 365, which is available to you through the university, and we actually talked about that in the first presentation. So hopefully you got your hands on that, and hopefully also you opened up Excel and used the data file that we shared with you to maybe replicate our first session presentation. So this presentation is really going to be a short extension of that first presentation, which was fairly lengthy because we wanted to show you how to draw lines and text boxes and annotate and change attributes of charts and that sort of thing. You can do all those things in this example. We may not, though, do every one of them since you already know how to do them. So what we want to do today is take a look at, you can see we have a set of data that we're interested in tracking. So if you wanted to sort of set the context for this, what we're working with are 4 clients who are experiencing anxiety in a group intervention, and we're tracking them each week using the GAD-7, and you can see that we have a completed set of scores for each of those individuals. So, and this is actually not an uncommon design. We've had a number of students do their final projects with this kind of a design, so it's not an uncommon thing, and we want you to just be kind of aware that you can do this if a situation warrants it. So what we want to do is go from our data to our group progress chart, and I want to show you how you can actually break out individual trajectories, which can be helpful. So we have the group view of things and then an individual's view of things. So this is really very straightforward. It couldn't be more straightforward as an extension for that first conversation. Really, in effect, what we do is just cast the net a little wider. So, and this is what I mean by that. If you hold down the Shift key and click on that first cell, and then hold down the Shift key, sorry about that, and then click and drag, you'll highlight these 4 trajectories. And then what we do is basically what we did before. Go to Insert, go over to the recommended chart area in the ribbon, and click on Line Chart and click on Line with Markers. And we click on that, and we've seen this before. We get an embedded chart in this tab. So what we want to do, make sure that's selected, and we go to our Move Chart icon up here. It takes us into the Move Chart dialog. We click on a new sheet. I'm not going to change the name in this instance. We'll just use the default, but if you wanted to give it a name, you certainly could. And we gave it a group progress chart in our example down below. So we'll just call it, well, heck with it. Let's call it a new chart. Sorry. I don't want to be lazy here. So, and then click OK. So there we are. We have our chart, individual trajectories. We'll be very interested to see how these work. You can see that overall we've got a stable baseline, and then we have good trajectories going down, except for Tim, who is not declining in his anxiety symptoms quite as much as the rest of them, which could be helpful information for us. We can see that the legend in this chart sort of defaults to the bottom, and you could leave it there. It's just, a legend is helpful in telling us which trajectory is which. If you wanted to move it over to the side, if you go to something called this tab here called Quick Layout, and click on the downward caret, and then you can select different chart types, and if you click on this, you can see that gives us the legend the type of chart that has a legend like the one in our example here, so you can see how that worked on basically. You can do it however you want to do it. It's strictly a matter of taste. So we can change attributes. In this case, it makes it pretty easy for us to do. We could call it group progress chart if you wanted to do that. You can click on GAD7 score here. It's not actually asking us. It's not asking us. We don't have to go to our add elements in this case. We can they show up. Well, we would here for the week. So if we wanted to put week in, we would go to add chart element and axis titles, and then primary horizontal, which is at the bottom, and then we could click on week. I'm doing this fairly quickly, but you guys already know this. And then we could also double click on this axis and go here and change our angles. We might want to do that so they fit a little better. We've seen that before, and we can click out of that. So this is really an A-B design, a baseline intervention period. We didn't include a return to baseline. It just sort of made it busy. So there you are. And then you can, we won't do this, but you could draw in your vertical line demarking the baseline and the intervention period, and then maybe draw a line on the score of 10 that indicates the the sort of clinical goal that you're after for participants in the group. So very straightforward. Couldn't be easier. So we can break out charts too, and I'm going to show you how to do TIMS. We're going to replicate TIMS because it's not. If you click off of this, just click on any cell, it will unmark. So if we wanted to do Jill again, we could just click and highlight on Jill. But if we wanted to do any of the other participants, we can see that they're not contiguous. So, so the question is, how do we get Jill out of the mix here and just focus on Tim? Well, it turns out in the Mac environment, if you hold down the Command key and click on these cells, click and drag on these cells, it will highlight them uniquely. You do the same thing in Windows by holding down the Control key. It functions in the same way. And there is a Control key on a Mac, so some of you will maybe don't get confused. It would be Control or right-clicking actually will do the same thing. So once you do that, very simple, straightforward steps again. Go to Insert and go to Line with Markers chart, and you can see TIMS shows up. Move chart. Let's call it Tim. Click on New Sheet. Click OK. Yay, we've got Tim, and you can then do his annotations. Line across the goal area, horizontal line here, changing some of the titles and some of the attributes. Again, I don't. By now, you should really pretty much know how to do those things. So it's not one more just to sort of repeat myself a little bit. It's not uncommon for students to have small group projects that have multiple members, and which would be the definition of a group, but have multiple members, tracking data. I hope that made sense. Tracking data on some outcome instrument that you want to portray. So the way to do that is to set it up carefully in your spreadsheet, and then you can draw the chart by the steps that we talked about. So anyway, I hope that made sense. You certainly practice it once you get the data set, and it is available to you on the course site. And so hone your skills, and that'll be it for today.